The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. Well, we found a little bit of green on the screen in the grains and oilseeds as we closed out the week on Friday and wrapped up the month of October. No doubt a volatile week in the trade with a lot of U.S.-China news at play and other things, other factors as we kind of worked through the final week of October. Let's take a look at how we finished things out and take a look at these markets. Joining us here for a conversation, Heather Ramsey with the ARC Group is with us. Heather, it is great to talk with you. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's the end of the month, and that's so weird to hear you say that. It just flew by.
I can't believe that it's, we're turning the calendar to November already. That is what is crazy to me. Yeah. And obviously, it's almost felt like we lived a month in a week here, it seemed, this past week, Heather. I mean, a lot of volatility, a lot of news, a lot of headlines, a lot of movement, grains and oil seeds, getting the benefit of some of that, especially soybeans. Corn, maybe not so much, but ending with a little bit of green on the screen, always a positive to close out a week and close out a month, Heather.
Yeah, it was actually, like you said, it felt like a month in a week. There was a lot of up and down. I think actually the bigger indicator of how much volatility is out there is when you look at each day individually. I think 4 out of 5 days we traded both sides of unchanged on both corn and soybeans. And it might not have been 4 days. I think there was about 3 days on wheat that we were, both sides of unchanged. So you go from, I think Wednesday was actually like a really great example. We actually were super, super strong on that close. Then the overnights going into Thursday almost reversed it completely, came back in Thursday morning then and the day trade. And then we were right back to positive in the opposite direction. So it's just the volatility is extremely unreal right now, especially in that soybean market.
Well, and that volatility giving maybe some opportunity here. And let's talk about soybeans. And there's a couple things to unpack here. Obviously, all the U.S.-China news and the good news out here and the rally in futures. But something else that I know you want to highlight and talk about, and it's important, is cash side of this equation. We got, the switch to from Nov to Jan. We got first notice days here. There's some important things that producers need to keep in mind right now.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of moving parts this time of year. When we talk about this rally, it was hit and miss on who had actually rolled off of the November board onto the January board from a cash standpoint this week. Some of that had started. And so we're in the midst of a rally, and I was having conversations with clients, letting them know that, basis had changed and now reverses the Jan. And sometimes that's really shock and awe for people, because in this situation, to go from the November futures board to the January futures board, there is a carry. So there is a premium in January, which inherently means if I'm a cash, originator, I am widening out that basis now, the equivalent or more in some cases of what that carry is. I'm trying to keep my cash versus Nov equal to my cash versus Jan when I switch. So the gut reaction to that from the farmer is like, oh my gosh, we went from 90 under to $110. Like, what happened? And in that example specifically, we really only widened out about 3-4 cents, honestly, because there was about a 16-17 cent carry at the time that they did that. And so just like re-educating people to like pay attention to where our cash is referencing, like, is it referencing November or December for corn? Did it roll out reference January, March? So that's like a little detail. If you're a hedger, obviously first notice day being here, like that is the time to get those futures positions rolled out to the next month, capture that carry. And thankfully we do have some pretty, I would say pretty robust carry given where we've been over the last 5 to 7 years. Now, is that carry enough to pay for the whole cost of on-farm? No, but it is a bigger carry situation. There's more premium there for you to roll those hedges out to the deferred than what we've been seeing over the last 5, 6, 7 years, honestly. So it's been a good opportunity, but yeah, like you said, it's the end of a month. There's lots of moving pieces. We're switching things around, and it just gets to be a lot to manage.
Well, on the corn side too, we can talk about this a bit. Really the changes in the corn market have been fairly minimal. I've said this a number of times that corn to me has felt like a reluctant follower to this soybean rally here the last several days, Heather.
Yeah, and I really felt that way on the first few days of the soybean move. I've been pleasantly surprised with how well it's hung on to its value the last couple days of this week. I really thought, we're hearing nothing related to corn, nothing supportive, to corn essentially. So I thought maybe it would fall off a little bit harder than it did. We're still up here within probably 3 or 4 cents of our high for this week. And it surprised me, honestly. I mean, other than saying that, there's not a real good way to describe it. I think everyone knows what they're looking for in corn. They're looking for some yield adjustments. But we all know with this government shutdown, the end all be all that has to tell us this yield change is USDA, and we don't have them right now. And so that's sort of on the back burner until it comes back. So I was really surprised with corn to hang in there as well as it did the tail end of the week. But yeah, to your point, it's just reluctantly there,
Well, and to the point you made about the data piece of this, and I know that's something that a lot of producers, they're having to rely on technical trade or spreads and carries and anecdotal pieces of data. Without some of that concrete hard data, folks are having to rely on different pieces of information here to try and understand some of what is lying underneath in these grain markets, Heather.
Yeah, I was just checking, because it seems weird to not have heard anything, right? We're on like day 30, 31, right? Yeah. And I did see some announcements where it looks like some private analyst estimates are going to start coming out next week again, which, is actually normal timing for them. That'd be about a week ahead of when we should be actually seeing a USDA report that looks like we're not going to get. So this will kind of be our first readjustment from the private analyst side coming up in about a month. I think you're seeing what I'm seeing anyways from these private numbers though, is that their ranges of guesses or estimates are consolidating a little bit, because they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to guess wrong. And I think there is some bias coming in to say, well, maybe we'll just narrow up this estimate a little bit because it's all a guessing game. Like, to your point, it's all a guessing game without that concrete data.
Yeah, plenty of things that, we're going to have to see what happens as we get into November. Harvest wrapping up, of course, too, and that's been playing a role in some of this market action. To final thoughts here, Heather, as we kind of look at things, wrapping up the week and the month, and again, finding a little bit of green on Friday, somewhat of a quiet day, though. I mean, what's the biggest takeaway you'd have for producers when they're looking across their grain marketing right now?
So I definitely think that my biggest takeaway is that soybeans have outperformed maybe our expectations in general. With that being said, when you have a market that's giving you futures values above the last high we saw clear back in February, we've been talking about how we haven't retraced that number. We did retrace it and we blew through it here just this week. I think that's a huge opportunity to generate some pricing against those soybeans, especially since the yield was better for a lot of people than expected, and generate the cash. Cash is going to be king going forward when we start talking about what does it mean for marketing, cash flow. We're going to be renewing our operating notes here pretty quick and trying to look at next year's inputs. We're going to need that extra bushels that we're getting to be priced and cash in our hand. So from a soybean standpoint, that's been kind of an easy decision this week. From a corn standpoint, I think looking at the timing of things, how to generate cash and then still put yourself in a position to potentially be playing should some upside correction come when we finally do get these USDA reports back. That's a very, very important conversation to have with someone and just help you make that plan. Generate cash, still be in the game. What do those percentages need to look like? Do I go 100% sold in cash and figure out some sort of upside re-ownership strategy on 30%, 40%, just like having the plan to execute? Because when we see these crazy weeks, it just happens so fast. You can't pull that out of a hat and go, yeah, let's do it all. Like just having that plan on corn is going to be extremely important in the next 3 to 4 months, in my opinion.
Well, always appreciate thoughts on things, and of course, it's one of those things where having that plan is just so important. Managing that risk is so important, and of course, we always remember that risk of trading futures and/or options can be substantial. Heather, if folks want to reach out and have a conversation with you there at the ARC Group, what's the best way?
Yeah, they can definitely look us up online at agrisconsulting.net, or just give me a call. It's an area code is actually 531-500-3200. That'll get you directly to me.
Heather Ramsey with the ARC Group. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great one. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. You can watch our latest interviews with top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. It's easy. Just go to youtube.com/@MarketTalkAg and hit the subscribe button. Or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.